Hi, Dr. Doug Graham here for Let's Cook Raw, and I am just excited as I could be to be talking with my dear friend I've known for almost 40 years, Aris LaTham. And my goodness gracious, don't you just look beautiful? Aris, welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you so much, so much. It's quite an honor to share this moment with you, my brother. It's been a good some time now.
Oh, it has. I remember back in Miami, Florida, in
Yeah.
Coconut Grove, you used to
Oh,
have a little
yes.
booth under a tree and sell raw food goodies, concentrated delights and wafers and all sorts
Oh,
of
yeah.
wonders. And
True.
you were the force in the whole South Miami area back then, like I was up in Atlanta back then.
Yes.
And what a powerful thing. You're now a worldwide force, and
hmm
and we just want to know a little bit more about you and what makes you tick, and maybe tell us a little about your early history. Did you have health problems? What kind of foods did you eat as a kid? Where were you raised? Nobody knows.
Okay. Yes, yeah. Well, look, it all started around 73 years ago when I was born in the Panama Canal Zone, in a wonderful neighborhood in a tropical rainforest, and hanging out in grandma's kitchen and grandpa's chicken coop, out in the farm, right there. And just, a little wild kid, in the bush, collecting oranges after the hurricane or whatever, came through and hanging out on the banks of the Panama Canal, fishing in the lake or in the sea, And we talking 1947, and of course, this is pre, modern convenience era. So
Sure.
we're cooking on the cold pot, or trying to eat the food before the ice melt.
Right.
So it's a legacy of freshness. That's what it was all about.
And back
Fresh.
then, all food was organic too.
Oh,
Everything was
no,
organic. That's
no
all there was.
question. No question. Yeah. So going to the market with Granny and, helping her with the basket, with the goodies, and can't wait to get back home to get in the kitchen with her to grate the coconuts and wash the dishes, just hanging out there and hanging out with grandpa in the chicken coop, chasing down the chicken, get the bucket and drop the bucket on it, and then grandpa would chop the head off. I mean, this is like kid days, So it was quite interesting. And, fast forward 17 years later, here I land in inner city, New York,
Wow.
Bedford Stuyvesant, going to high school, the age of 17, and, major contrast, from the bush to the concrete jungle,
Oof.
and getting
And those are some
introduced.
tough times in Bedford Stuyvesant.
Oh, real times, real
Real
time.
tough times.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, meeting Sloppy Joe and Scuba Nong and these other characters, spinning the bottle of wine and hanging out with the jitterbugs, and you got to be careful. You can't bop, Panamanian style, because they'll ask you to, jump up and let me hear if any coins jingle in your pocket. Then if they hear anything, it's theirs, So you had to be, But anyway, growing days, growing
Sure.
days. And 1967, I'm landing in community college, Bayside, New York, out in the burbs, taking the subway and the bus, to go to school, to go to college every day, commuting, from the inner city to the suburbs, and And lo and behold, we're talking hippie era, anti-Vietnam War climate, and the Black Power movement. So it's like it's a whole nother, school of hard knocks, you know. But the knocks were soft because we're talking, back to the land, love power, you know, uh,
Yeah.
self-defense, the time of the revolution, you know, and fortunately it wasn't televised back then because we were doing some wild things, we were doing some wild things. So, so it's interesting uh, getting introduced to, vegetarianism back then, and it wasn't about vegetarianism based on the fact that, we were conscientious objectors, so we're not going to Vietnam to kill other people. We're not going to Vietnam because we don't want to fight in your rice war. We don't want to, support uh, people, business folks to hog up the rice culture of the world, the rice basket of the world, or things of this, simple nature. But as students that were hungry for knowledge, hungry for growth, we're like, this food that we've been served in our cafeteria, it's a weapon. Because every time we eat this thing, we sneeze, we get drowsy, and something is not right. So we need to like really defend our lives. The same way we were sitting in the college campus, Kent
Yes.
State, and these places, and we don't want to go to war. We're not going to kill ourselves. We're not going to point that wax apple into our mouth and shoot our brain with it and tie it up with, these chemicals and all of these other types of stuff. So this is it. This was the impetus. So it wasn't about saving the bald eagle or the zebra or saving any animal before we saved the one that we slept in. So it was
Absolutely.
about human rights, self-defense, and it's been a magnificent journey ever since then. So coupled with getting the hippie, culture in the suburb, in school, and going back home every day to Bed-Stuy, to the inner city. And in the community, we had now independent Black schools, where we were being taught, about our history, our culture, and things like this. But also we had co-ops there. We had food co-ops. And I had my first vegetarian 101 class, at this independent Black school, being a volunteer at the co-op in 1968, and it's all been history ever since then, and I'm still a part of the revolution. What we do even up to today is still revolutionary, and I'm so proud and honored, to have grown up these past 50 years now, 50 plus years, as part of this revolution, and having subsequently been acknowledged by the Oxford Encyclopedia of Food and Drink as the father of ethical gourmet raw food cuisine, for having
Absolutely.
spiced the cuisine, because that was my contribution. I spiced it, because back then when we got into raw food, it was like rabbit food. You literally had to be sick to eat it, because it was designed for healing, for curing. Dr. Ann Wigmore, bless her soul,
Right.
that really pioneered, along with my beloved brother and great friend Victoria Skovinskas, and these were the people that I was able to touch physically, that I got the energy from. So I wasn't sick. I wasn't ill in any way. I was just a young college student that was just hungry for knowledge, and, got introduced to the whole vegetarian culture, and then started eating up books. I think the first book I ate was Paul Bragg's, Scientific
Yes.
Fasting.
Yes.
And that triggered it, fasting once a week. And I'm still eating, my little garbage in the college campus, but hey, I'm under my trail mix, trying to be hip, and I'm going to the health food store to re-up my little trail mix, but I'm reading the books that I met up upon in the health food store. You know, uh, Professor Norman Walker,
Hmm.
Professor Hilton Hotema, you know,
Exactly.
yes, Professor Arnold Harrod. So I amassed a library of over 12,000 self-help book, by the time I was 30, just gobbling up. And especially, I think I purchased all the raw food books that I could find
Yeah,
as
well,
well.
leaders are readers, man.
Yeah, yeah.
And
So it's
you could have rested on your laurels 40 years ago and still be a famous man, but thank you for being a leader and staying out in front of the curve for all of these years and to still be doing it. Your
oh
energy,
yes.
your energy is infectious in the
All
best of
right.
possible ways. I'm curious,
Thank
do
you.
you have do you have any other memories of either incidents or people you met or things you could tell us from early raw history in your life?
Oh man, I tell you, look, for me, the big highlight back then, uh, we're talking 1982, because I did, some flips around the corners and did this, went back to school, went to graduate school, uh, Cal State Fullerton, studied linguistics, got a master's in linguistics and bilingualism and working in bilingual education and so forth. But I retired, at the age of 29, I retired. I'm like, no, I'm not going to do this anymore for the rest of my life. I can't be caught up in academics like this and dealing with languages, language arts, where people, it's just like a requirement. It wasn't like anything fun and motivating. So anyway, I retired and I moved on, went and lived in Tanzania, up in the Kilimanjaro with the Maasai and watching them drink the cow's blood and slaughter their
Wow.
herds of calves and, you know, but yet looking out for me, because I'm a fruitarian back then, and I'm up there in the bush with all these meat eaters, but they'll bring me like, the best avocado, the best papaya. So, so I'm sitting down dining with these guys, and they're like really into their thing. But there was a mutual respect, of the sacredness of our food, So it wasn't about, no, you got to eat with us what we're eating.
Right.
So that like really was a big eye opener. So then I moved back to the US, 1979, landed in Harlem, New York, and I started an organic fruit co-op to get my goods. So I had stuff coming out of Florida. There was a company in Florida called Organic Conspiracy. I remember them quite well. So I would get my cases of, oranges and mangoes and all the tropical stuff coming out of Florida. Then I had stuff coming from California, from Sunburst Farm, the
Right.
hippie farms up in Santa Barbara, So I'm getting all of my stuff, but I'm in Harlem, no man's territory, back then, junkie on the corner. I mean, literally,
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
there
but
was
but
plenty.
so my co-op, my community wasn't cooperating with the co-op. So I decided, like, well, for me to survive and not have to go back into the workforce, you know, I'm gonna get me a little shop. So I bought an herb shop, Savannah Herb, in Harlem. Folks, they want their herbs, so they come in there for their herbs, and I have my juices, and I have my organic fruits that they don't see these kind of fruits, in the inner city community,
At all.
And then I had my salads and my sunburgers and my paradise pies ready to go. So there, they came upon these things and they started enjoying it and really, supporting, my efforts. Then there was like, how did you make this? And why are you only eating raw foods? So that triggered the opening of my institute, the what I call the House of Life, where we just took an abandoned brownstone, and did sweat equity with the government because, nobody wanted to live in Harlem. So, so a brownstone that eventually sold for a couple of $1 million. We were paying $1 a month to occupy this thing, to homestead, literally, doing sweat equity. And, but 1972, the Whole Life Expo comes to New York, a big national health expo. And we got a booth to sell sun-fired foods. And, there was Govindas, all of the,
Right.
local natural food eateries, that were in there. And Dick Gregory was one of the headliners, my great, became my great mentor eventually. Dick Gregory, who, did a lot of work with Victoria Skoulviscus, this is a man that was 300 pounds that, his mentor, Dr. Alvina Fulton out of Chicago, got a hold of him, put the man in a fast, turned him into a fruitarian, and he dropped down to 98 pounds.
Right, that's when I met him.
Yeah, running from LA to Washington, DC, jogging 3,000 miles on a fruitarian diet, fasting, and knocking off a good 200 pounds off of his body, and became, a really wonderful living inspiration for many of us, in the inner city. So anyway, Dick Gregory hung out at my booth that weekend at the expo and started bringing all the big celebrities there that were into the whole culture, and that's when it's like the flame of fame lit up, because I made all this money. We kept selling out constantly, but we're making our food in the booth as opposed to the other vendors. They got to go to their kitchen to cook. And we're turning out sun-fired foods, living foods in the booth, 10 by 10, And so lots of write-ups and everything. And then I was told, like, hey, this expo, we're going to have 5 of them next year. One in DC, one in, Pasadena, one in San Francisco. And I hit the road. Sold my little operation in Harlem, the Institute and the herb shop, passed it on to a buddy, and we hit the travel circuit for 5 years, traveling around doing all the major health expos, not only the Whole Life Expo, but the Time of Your Life Expo. These are the senior citizens, the Baby Expo in the Santa Monica Convention Center, and, Jack LaLanne and all these guys, doing their thing. And we're like, the caterers of these events, like the Sun-Fired Crew. But the big highlight came at a Whole Life Expo in Pasadena when Shirley MacLaine, the woman that was doing the channeling, she was written up all over in all the medias during that time. So she was the headliner of this expo, the Whole Life Expo in Pasadena. And we got there that Friday, and the lines were around the block of the convention center. And pretty much it's like the crowd that they expected over the weekend, they all showed up that first day. And all the food vendors, all the food we had planned on selling for the whole weekend, we sold it all in the first day. So everybody is scrambling, trying to figure out how to invent food the next 2 days, But the Sun-Fired Crew will go to the 24-hour supermarket or to the wholesale terminal market at night, do our shopping, and land in that booth the next morning and fix our food right there, And we had lines 2-3 hours deep waiting for Sun-Fired Foods, our Kush Tabbouleh, to come forward, our Paradise 5, the Green High. So to me, that has been up to today one of the most memorable highlights of my entire life of, being a raw foodist and serving, our community, health on a platter,
Health on a
that
platter.
Whole Life Expo.
That's phenomenal. So you've come around full circle probably half a dozen times on this question, but are there any specific nutrients that you pay attention to? Do you do nutrition by the food? Do you do nutrition by the nutrient? Is there certain things that you say we really need to pay attention to?
Well, I do nutrition by intuition, by my gut feeling, literally,
Hmm.
how my gut feel after I consume that, and just constantly just keep observing, keep observing not only the taste factor, but the digestive factor. So many things that just came to light, just intuitively, and then reading about it in the books. It's like, okay, this really validates it for me, on many level. But over the years now, I have observed what I call the electromagnetic energies of plant foods. you know so for 50 years now of only consuming foods from the plant kingdom, no animal food consumption or anything like that, and 44 years of only consuming sun-fired foods, all living foods, I have observed that my body has been the best barometer as to my nutritional intake. You know, Gradually over the years, it has totally refined its intake automatically. And there's like certain, basically what I've noticed is that as the body grows cleaner, the most objectionable thing on the plate gets, I lose the desire for it. you know,
Absolutely.
I- so even like today, right now, where I'm at, you know, I've noticed that, salt is a complete no. It's like I cannot stand the taste of salt in my mouth anymore. So salt is a complete no. Even like now, even acid tasting foods, lemons and all of these things, if I'm going to take pineapple, I juice it and I drink the pineapple juice. But for me to actually chomp down on a slice of pineapple, no more. No more at all. So, and minimal fat, like now, even like say like oils, I'm not into the coconut oil, raw, extra virgin, cold press, organic. No, not even that for me. It's got to be fresh. So I would get my mature coconut, husk it out, and run that coconut meat through my juice extractor, and I get fresh coconut cream, which is
Absolutely.
really fresh coconut oil. The juice of the coconut meat, the fat, the rich, direct fat from the coconut. So this is me. This is me now. So, and I notice also now it's like the more mature my body has become, the less food I need, the less, processing it needs to do. So I've grown to a point where over the past 7 years now, I've instituted another level of fasting because, starting off with Paul Bragg's scientific fasting in 1979, 51 years of fasting once a week, pretty much religiously or spiritually, 36-hour fast, starting back then with distilled water, because that was the consciousness of the day, to moving on to coconut water, and doing my fruit juices in the morning. Now I do like a quart of fruit juice with a quart of coconut water in the AM from 6 a.m. to 12 noon. And then from 12 noon to 6 p.m., I do a quart of coconut water and a quart of vegetable juice. So I'm still getting my gallon in, but I'm a little bit more careful and a little more conscious of not just putting in just blank water, empty water, distilled water. I'm putting in distilled water that the minerals really necessarily weren't removed, but they were reorganized,
Yeah.
and that coconut water, the fruit juices, the vegetable juices, it's like I get to really absorb. My body focuses on absorption rather than digestion and breaking down and then restructuring inside of my body, So it's like direct structured foods
Well,
without
I just
having
had this
to.
conversation with a man trying to sell me a Kangen machine.
Oh my
And I explained to
goodness.
him that when you put the food in your mouth, it restructures automatically as soon as it hits your mouth.
That's right.
And you don't have to structure your water when you put it in your mouth. It's going to structure appropriately. So
Yes,
good
yes.
for you. Listen,
Oh,
you
yeah.
know, you've been such a force for good in the world. You've influenced, I can't even guess how many people. Um, and you did a little bit of name dropping, but who else? Who were your early influences and who influences you today?
Oh, man, look, one of my early influences and still one of my greatest influencer today, this just came in the mail.
Yes,
Man's higher consciousness.
yes,
Hilton Hotema.
absolutely. He's
Hilton
phenomenal.
Hotema. Oh, yes. Find his books. I think he wrote close to 100 of them. Anyone you come upon is a gem.
Right.
This is a man that I think a good at least 40 years as a fruitarian, 50 years, all living foods, a man that lived close to a century in robust health, a man that has studied many sciences and arts, and man that has actually even claimed to have astral travel and lived on a higher plane, on a higher consciousness, reading the Akashic record and dropping gems, dropping information. But the thing that resonated the most to me is in one of his books when he talks about threpsology, this whole art of cooking, the fatal process, and how we destroy. So yes, one of my true, teachers up to today, any of his books I get a hold of, I read them out before I do anything else, And, of course, it's good to get them digitally also right now. They are available, but look him up, Hilton, Hilton, Hotema, Hotema. Yeah, but I read all of Fruitarian guys back then because that was my calling for me,
Johnny Love
Fruitarian.
Wisdom and all of them.
Yeah, yeah, that was my calling,
Did you
because
ever
I
meet
grew up in a
Johnny?
fruit jungle. That was our main food as kids, you
Sure.
know. So when I got into all raw foods, my first 2 years, I was a fruitarian completely. But when I started Sunfired Foods, the culinary business now, then I started eating prepared foods, you know. But it's been a blessing because I've been able to go through all of the different layers, of raw foodism, and really come back today. I am probably, I would say, a good solid 70% fruitarian. And when I say fruitarian, I really want to qualify that we're talking about botanical fruits, not just nutritional fruits that are sugar dense. We're talking about cucumbers and,
Mhm.
eggplants and all of these fruits that have no sugar as well. A complete balance, but also the system that I've observed, which I call again the electromagnetic energies of food, which is something I've been living with for many years now, that, the higher the moisture in the food and the higher it grows, the more electrical energy or electrolytes
Mhm.
you're going to find in these foods. Yes, with exceptions of something like watermelon that grows on a vine. For me, the watermelon vine, it's a spring. It's like a hose that's connected to the earth, that's pumping water out of the earth, restructuring it, filling it up with all this alkaline energy, all of these electrolytes, and packaging it in this 30, 40, 50-pound melon jar,
Yes.
well packaged. And the same thing with the coconut tree. The coconut tree, the highest grown food tree on the planet. And we know as it is above, so it is below. The roots, if the top is 100 feet above the earth, the roots are 100 feet down into the earth. And these are like, pumps that are pulling water out of the earth through the grace of the sun and the gravitational pull of the earth that's got them anchored in Pachamama, in Mother Earth, and here you got this masculine energy, this male energy, this phallic or obelisk of a tree that just keeps growing up, single, stature, and pumping this water and alkalizing it, turning inorganic minerals from the sea into an organic form and packaging it in these breast-like containers, these coconuts, and here's this masculine energy bearing 300 breasts, ready to feed the world, ready to hydrate the world. Look, Coconut Grove, where we met, in Florida, it was a coconut tree forest.
It was.
That's why they call it Coconut Grove. And the entire Florida coastline, the entire Caribbean islands, the entire Pacific islands, the entire tropical belt of the world was a coconut water plantation,
Right.
ready to hydrate the world. So for me, a good 40 years now, I don't consume water as we know it. I don't drink water from wells, from springs, from bottles, recycled toilet water that are filtered and packaged, in our modern plastic cups and all of this stuff. No, my water comes from a tree. My water comes from plants. Not only coconut water, but watermelon. It's water. We're speaking the Queen's language. It's water. Watercress is water. Water apple is water. Orange juice is orange flavored organic water.
I mean, even the banana is more than 90% water by weight. I mean, I agree with you completely. I love banana flavored water.
Please. Oh, yes. So who needs to drink blank water while we can eat fresh water that hydrates, electrify the system, charge it up, and we don't have to work for it. We don't have to expend all of the
no-brainer, isn't it?
Please, so this has been me, for solid years now, and then also expanding on my fasting from my weekly fast and adding a lunar fast, twice a month on the new moon and full moon. I'm shutting my system down. My digestive system, only liquids, only fresh juices are going through there. And then to that, I added my seasonal fast on the solstice and the equinox, fasting 3 days, 4 times a year, shutting it down, allow the body to do its deep cleansing automatically. And then 7 years ago, incorporating my annual fast event of the year, my life fast, fasting for the number of days, for the number of years I've been living on the planet. Wow. So, yeah, so July 27th, I just completed my 73-day annual fast, or I call it juice feast these days, because, the word fast, fasting, the classical definition of fasting, it means to hold fast. Nothing goes past your lips, not even juice, water, or anything. Right. As the ancient ones used to say, they fasted for 40 days and 40 nights. Because we automatically fast every night, every time we go to bed. That's a built-in safety valve. Otherwise, we would have destroyed ourselves eating 24 hours a day already, long time ago. So incorporating a daily fast along with that nightly fast, that weekly fast, that lunar fast, that seasonal fast, and doing it for 73 days and breaking it right after my birthday, it's been amazing. And I see how my body just renews itself and recalibrates and restructure every year from these fasts, So then, so now it's like, there was one olive that I was left with, because I had to get rid of olives, all olives are salty, so I was only doing the dried, oil cured olive, that kind of stuff, So after this fast, it's like not even that now. Not even that. Onions and garlic, not even that. My body don't need onion and garlic anymore. These are disinfectants. Right. I got nothing to disinfect, So over the years, just gradually, whether it's been the mushroom, the kombucha, all of these things, I've left them behind. My body don't need this type of harsh treatment anymore. My body don't need to be challenging. So it's on pretty much smooth sailing automatically. So at 73, 20/20 vision, no sickness, no anything, nothing ails me, nothing like that. When I look at my medical report, everything is in balance. Of course,
Fantastic. Just
the,
fantastic.
the B12 is off. Okay, so yeah, I got a B12 deficiency. So, okay, Harvard University Medical School, explain to me why I have a B12 deficiency and I do not show the symptoms of that are commonly associated with B12 deficiency.
Double digit,
My
double
brain is
digit, or
juicy.
just low triple digit?
Excuse me?
Like a lot of people tell me they have deficiency, uh,
Yes,
but they don't have any symptoms,
right.
which, well, I want to hear what you say first.
Well, you know, my brain is juicy. I got plenty of oxygen on my brain for a 73-year-old person. My brain is not shrinking,
Right.
and I'm getting wiser and clearer. The gems are coming swifter at this age. So to me, I feel that I've really, living the way I've been living is that my body is really growing stronger. But then also, if yes, my nerves are steady, no issue with my nerves, no issue at all that are typically associated. So what I have observed during the years and doing my research, checking the early works of Dr. Gabriel Cousin, where he specifically had cited, the fact that we do not need all of that heavy load of B12, because 95% of it is excreted in our waste that we derive from these heavy animal products. But of course, his science has migrated as well over the years, but I've kind of stuck to it because I've stuck to 100% living foods for 44 years, no trying, some quinoa that's just lightly steamed, none of those types of things. And no starches in my eating program, no complicated carbohydrates that my body needs to break down into sugar. So that means no deep roots, no roots that are not juiceable. If this guy doesn't have enough water, I'm not dealing with that because that's a complicated carbohydrate. And
Exactly.
I'm not going to try to turn my body into a refinery to make sugar from yams at all. No beans, not even sprouted mung beans or any of these things, even sprouted lentils, because the protein that we love in the lentils, once you sprout it, based on the analysis that's been done by Victoria Skolvinskas in the book Sprouts for Everybody, the protein count goes down because you're diluting it with this water.
Of course.
So why am I taking these things? Why am I? So anyway, so no starch, and very minimal fat, just whole fatty foods, avocados for the most part, and coconut. That's where most of my fat is derived from, and whatever seeds and nuts that I can comfortably digest today after taking them through the process of hydration and activation and even processing them and turning them into milk and cheese and yogurt and culturing them and all of these types of things, but still I keep those things down to a minimum. So what I find or what I feel intuitively is that my body's ability with a clean intestinal system to generate the 5% B12 that is usually retained in the body of the animal flesh eaters, my body is capable of generating that naturally, synthesizing it in my intestinal system. I hang out in the sun. I live in the sun. Just up to yesterday, I'm on the beach running my 6 miles. I'm biking 2 hours a day. I'm swimming an hour a day. And I'm laid out in the grass, just like the cows, in the sun. But I got my green juice, So that photosynthesis process, I'm generating what I need. So I'm a proud B12 deficient, sir. I'm happy to be B12 deficient, So for me, this is the way I live. This is the way I activate my life based on my real energy. And yes, certain things, I observe certain scientific information. I try to live by them as closely as possible, but my body speaks to me very loud and clear. And then when I look at my medical results and I look at the state of my health compared to other men in my age bracket, I feel pretty safe. You know, I'm on the right track.
Oh, you are so right on the right track, man. You are on the main line. It's fantastic. It's fantastic. I could talk to you all day long, and it's a treat. And I look forward to the chance to do that some more. And the
Yes,
next time that our paths cross, you know, we make a point to spend more time together. It's
yes.
exceptional spending time with you, letting you go on your wavelength, and hearing how you think. It's a thing of beauty. It's so safe and so productive and so beneficial for people to hear your voice. And I just want to thank you for spending time with us. I look forward to having you come on Let's Cook Raw and sharing so much of
Mhm.
yourself. And
Yes,
all I can
yes.
do, Aris, is say thank you. I hope maybe we can get a second interview, because I have a bunch more questions to ask. But I gotta ask you, you know, I when I saw your pies, I'd never seen anything like that. I'd never imagined anything like that. Hopefully, at least for Let's Cook Raw, maybe you can bring a photo or two from some of those magnificent pies. I remember you had your store in Brooklyn, or
Oh yeah.
right? It was in Brooklyn.
Yeah, yeah, right. On Flatbush Avenue in Park
Yeah.
Slope.
And I
Yes.
used to send everybody to go get your pies. Even people had your birthday pies. They were using them for birthday pies out in Cleveland, Ohio. They were taking your pies, were going everywhere.
Oh
And
yes, yeah. Well, you know, when
and
I had my place in West Hollywood on Restaurant Row, right near La Cienega Boulevard, and the name of that one was Paradise Pie. So
right,
people would go
Paradise
to
Pies.
Lurie's and Benihana's and eat their stuff, and then I was the dessert stop on Restaurant Row
Well,
in
I
West Hollywood.
understand why, because those pies were
Pie.
just those pies. I remember when I first saw them back in Hippocrates Institute that time, when all the speakers got together, and that's where I met Dick Gregory too, and and your pies have just been, you know, I remember seeing them on Coconut Grove, and it was just not only just so delicious, but so beautiful. The artistry, like I'm thinking, who
Oh,
is this man? He's an artist who happens to use food for his craft. Like that's his
oh yes,
medium.
edible art.
It was so
Edible art.
fantastic, and I just want to thank you for opening up so many eyes
Mhm.
to the potential of living food and eating fresh fruits and vegetables. Thank you again.
You're welcome. It's my pleasure. You know, the more I share, the more I grow, the more I learn. So I'm looking forward to sharing with Let's Cook Raw. Let's get
Fantastic.
in the
See you
kitchen
soon.
together. Yes, yes. Okay. Thank you for
Okay, so now I don't know what's happening. now,
ah.
now I'm not sure if we are or are not. Pause recording. I think.
Well, it says recording, but there's a light that's flashing with a red
Yeah.
something on the icon that's flashing on the recording.
Aris, you're beautiful. Just
Thank you,
beautiful.
my brother.
I'm so glad you're down in Grand Cayman having a good time. Uh,
Oh, yes.
and wherever you are, I'm sure the show will be a success from wherever you do it. You know, definitely we're both planetary citizens, and I'm comfortable on Earth, but
Oh, yes.
but
Yes.
yeah, being
Yes.
in a tropical location, it just sounds like you're living the life, and I'm so proud of you for it.
Oh, yes. Yeah, it's been a blessing to be guided, you know, to these shores at this time. And, you know, I'm thankful. I'm honored and I'm blessed, you know, to have the breath, you know, and, you know, my love, my prayers to everyone whose life has been interrupted or
Oh,
upended by, you know, this world drama. But you know, it's absolutely for the better. You know, we are going to be a better race, you know, after all of this. So you
agreed.
know,
It's a growth opportunity for sure.
oh yes, oh yes.
Okay, my friend. I'll talk to you soon. All right.
All right, Doug. Thank you, Doc.
Bless.